I think that'll work fine. And I would ask that, let's see, we can mute everybody and then unmute for questions if we need to. Does that sound good?
Whoops. Oh, there we go.
So, thank you, Lori. So, so good evening to everybody. Official start. And I keep seeing these. Stacy, you can see people who need to come in, right? Okay. Okay. So it really is nice to see. I'd love to just sit and stare at the faces for a while as they come in, but you know, for another time. And I think we have at least one woman tonight who joined this morning, which is great. So to members, to prospective members, to friends, to potential friends, from all of us on the Impact DC board, welcome. We have been looking forward to this evening with two truly remarkable women, Wendy Steele, the founder of the Impact 100 model, and Carrie Morgridge, a philanthropist who, among other pursuits, is a huge and eloquent champion of that model. The order of events for tonight is a brief intro from me, followed by short remarks by Carrie and then by Wendy. So we will have plenty of time for questions at the end, and I would encourage you to enter your questions into the chat box as we go along and as they occur to you. So I think most of you on the call probably know the basics of the Impact 100 model by now, but here it is encapsulated. 100 women contribute annual membership contributions of $1,000 and pool those resources to create a high impact grant, which is awarded to a community nonprofit working in 5 focus areas: arts and culture, education, family, health and wellness, and environment. Every woman has an equal voice in this all volunteer organization. One woman, a $1,000 contribution, and 1 vote to award the yearly grant. Every member is welcome and encouraged to participate in the grant review process. The idea of Impact 100 DC had been percolating for some time, but it became a reality in the summer of 2019. A small group of women who had committed to this new project gathered at the Tenley Friendship Library in Northwest Washington and agreed that the first step was to create a mission and vision. There was clearly a meeting of the minds as we did that work, and with that conversation, I knew that Impact DC was going to launch. So our vision statement has 3 interrelated prongs. We are an intent on building and sustaining a diverse community of women, diverse in age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, economic resources, walk of life, area of residence, a community with the potential to build bridges across divides and differences in the interest of common goals. It's the ensemble that I love to talk about as a former music teacher. Each singer's voice is unique and essential to the overall sound. You add one voice, the sound changes. You lose a voice, the sound changes. And all those disparate voices coming together build a brand new sound, which is far more powerful than the sum of its parts. It's those diverse voices and lived experiences that will allow us collectively to work toward a deeper understanding of unmet needs and their roots, to effectively evaluate grant proposals, and to best support and increase the visibility of the nonprofit organizations on the front lines working to create change. And through participation in the process, women are empowered as leaders and change agents. So it took from summer until the spring of 2020 to get things in order: bylaws, policies and procedures, 501c3 approval, a website. And finally, by March, we were ready to launch a big membership campaign, just as the pandemic struck. And a catastrophe which was soon to be followed by the George Floyd murder and a huge national response to the continuing existence of systemic racism. And then, of course, the increasing focus and anxiety about the November election, and not to mention weather in California and other parts of the country. It's been quite a year. But with those challenges come opportunities. And now more than ever, nonprofits need the kind of support organizations like ours can provide as they move from crisis mode to recovery mode. The systemic disparities that we hope to play a role in mitigating have never been so glaringly evident, and they compel us to act. So this really is a perfect time to become involved in Impact 100 DC. We are past the halfway mark of 100 founding members, and we have 2 months to reach our goal. If every member, for example, were to bring one additional woman to the table, we would more than be there. And if you are on this call tonight and you're thinking, oh, darn, I've been meaning to sign up, we've made it very easy for you to check this off your to-do list. At least we will soon. We might have forgotten. But Lori is going to add a link to the chat box. So all you have to do is click on it and sign up.
Well, yeah, it would be an email from Anne.
I'll get that, Anne, as soon as I stop sharing your slides.
Okay.
It will be there.
Okay. And so now, that's it for my remarks, and it's my pleasure to introduce Carrie Morgridge. Carrie serves as the Vice President and Chief Disruptor of the Morgridge Family Foundation. Their mission is to invest in leaders and organizations that are reimagining solutions to some of today's greatest challenges in education and poverty alleviation and more. They established the Student Support Foundation, whose mission is to empower the next generation of philanthropists. Kelly is a best-selling author and an inspirational speaker and really, really busy person. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her through the Impact 100 network. She is a passionate advocate for the model and supports it in myriad ways. Perhaps her strongest statement of support is that she has joined every impact in the world. Here's one indication of Carrie's energy and perseverance. She and her husband mountain biked across the country on the Great Divide mountain bike route covering 2,774 miles from Canada to Mexico in 46 days. As someone who just traded in her bike for an electric model, I am just completely impressed by that. She has also completed 10 Ironman competitions. So I will now let you hear from Carrie.
Hi, Anne. Thank you. Is there any way I can go back to looking? Yay! Hi, everyone. Oh, I always love seeing the faces so much more than I love seeing data about myself. I am Carrie Morgridge. It's just an honor to be here. It's an honor to be a part of your movement of Impact 100 DC. I was beyond thrilled when I got a call from Anne saying, we're starting a chapter in Washington, DC. What do you think, and can we do it? And I was like, heck yeah, you can do it. It needs to be done. And talk about an equalizer. So Morgridge Family Foundation, a little bit about us, is I come from a very, very modest background. Senior year of high school, I moved out because I couldn't get along with my stepdad. I often didn't know where my next meal was coming from. And then I graduated high school by one point. It wasn't because I was smart, it was because I didn't attend, because I was working 2 jobs. So I moved up to the Bay Area with no college education and immediately found myself assistant to the president because I just had this great common sense and this great value system of work ethic. And that took me down an amazing road. And then I met my husband, John Morgridge. And what is so interesting to this story is when John and I got married, his dad had just taken this company called Cisco Systems public. And boy, did my life change. And it changed big and it changed fast. So we had a family. And shortly after, you know, our kids were like 5, 6, and 7. I don't have 3 kids. They were just in that age range. John's parents said, would you like to get involved with our foundation? And I honestly didn't know how to give away money because I never had money. I didn't come from money. And I need to learn how to give away money. So I joined the Aspen Valley Community Foundation. And I learned so much from being on a community foundation board. I ended up having a donor advised fund. Then we ended up having a big fund at Fidelity, charitable gift fund. And from there, I just found that I kept outgrowing what I really wanted to do with the foundation. The other thing that we did was when we first started out as young philanthropists, you know, we just gave to where our kids were. So the foundation kind of grew up with the kids. So preschool grants turned into elementary school grants, and reading programs, which turned into middle school grants, which became anti-bullying programs, which turned into high school grants, and then that brought us to workforce development. But through my journey of giving, there wasn't Impact 100. There wasn't a place where I could go talk to other women like me, that we could have thoughtful discussions. So when I was first asked to give a speech at Impact 100, I thought it was kind of the cat's meow, to be honest, because I invest now in transformation, and I talk about innovation, and I love to get involved with a nonprofit when they're in startup mode. That's why I was so excited about Impact 100 DC. You're in startup mode. But with that, I found that Wendy and I were almost exactly alike, and our journey started almost at the same exact time. So she started in 2002. I didn't form Morgridge Family Foundation in 2008. I was doing the Fidelity Charitable Gift Fund and Donor Advised Fund. So Wendy and I basically started our giving journeys at the same time. She has now collectively given away over $80 million. And we're just getting started. That's what I love about Impact 100. One woman, one vote, making transformational gifts. So let's talk about transformational gifts for a second, because sometimes people get confused about what positive disruption is and what transformational gifts are. So at Morgridge Family Foundation, we define transformation by changing the system. And so what that means is, and a perfect example is a friend of mine invented a company called Propel. It's a SNAP benefits app for your cell phone. And last year, they only had 1 million people in SNAP benefits signed up on the phone. In a short time, 6 months period, they have over 6 million people on SNAP benefits on their phone. What does that mean? That means that people are getting their benefits quicker and faster. It means that there's a competition for them. Businesses want their money. And it also means that when COVID hit and a donor from San Francisco wanted to give away $100 million, 1,000 at a time to people on SNAP benefits, they did it through Propel. So transformation done in a really awesome way can help the systems change. So when we look at disruption and we talk about disruption, it's not program dollars, but it can also mean scale. So that there's a huge difference there. And then lastly, I'll share with you that Morgridge Family Foundation has just invested in a report with our partners, Sparks and Honey. The report is free. You can go on Sparks and Honey's website and download this 117-page report. I'm not going to give you a quiz, but what I'm going to tell you, what I've learned from the report is that one of the cultural shifts of now that affects the future of giving is a shift called diminishing societal trust. We no longer are trusting our government. We are no longer trusting big institutions. We're no longer trusting some of our nonprofits. And it's also bleeding into some individuals. We are no longer trusting. Now, the way to combat this is A, by truth telling. But B, what the report told us is that giving circles are a huge way to combat diminishing societal trust because it democratizes giving. So I knew when I met Wendy, Impact 100 was for me. I knew that it was something I wanted to be on board with and I wanted to scale. What I didn't know was how important women's empowerment is, how important democratizing giving is. And now we have a pathway, we have a clear pathway for everybody to have a seat at the table. So those are just a few reasons why I'm so excited and just, you know, screaming from the rooftop of why every city, small and large, should have an Impact 100. And I think with some of the connections that I've met through the Washington, D.C. chapter, I think Washington, D.C. has a chance to be the largest Impact 100 in all the groups, because the amazing women that live and reside in Washington, D.C., but also the need that's there and the chance for disruption. If any city needs it more than anyone, it's Washington, D.C. area. It's an area that there are amazing nonprofits doing great work, but they need women like us to invest with them and then really share out that great thing so that the government could pick up their great work and move it forward in a sustainable way. So I get all the connections from Impact 100, and I hope that anything or everything I said makes you more excited than ever to be a part of Impact 100 the way I'm excited about it.
Carrie, thank you so much. I'm more excited than ever. And we'll be hearing more from you because I'm sure people will have lots of questions about your work. So thank you. So, and now I'd like to introduce Wendy, who launched and led the first Impact 100 in Cincinnati, Ohio, an innovative pass-through foundation which empowers women to fund transformational grants to local nonprofits. So that was in 2000. I thought it was 2001, maybe it's 2002. But in any event, by the end of 2019, over 60 Impact 100 organizations had given away just short of $80 million to worthy nonprofits. That's a pretty remarkable thing. Wendy continues to support, mentor, and advise Impact 100 chapters around the globe. I've personally experienced that mentorship one-on-one, as have many, many, many impact leaders around the country. And also through her leadership of the Impact 100 Council, which is a huge resource for every chapter in the US and beyond. Her work in philanthropy has been noted in many books. PBS Television created an hour-long documentary entitled Impact 100, Changing Lives, Strengthening Communities, which highlights the work of Impact 100 Pensacola Bay, which is the world's largest impact organization. I know it's over 1,000, but I'm not sure, probably well over 1,000. And the whole Impact 100 movement is accelerating, which I think you know, is a huge testimonial to the power of the model. In 2014, Wendy was awarded the Jefferson Award for Public Service for her work with Impact 100. Considered the Nobel Prize for Community Service, this prestigious honor was founded in 1972 by Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Senator Robert Taft Jr., and Samuel Beard to recognize individuals across the nation who improve communities through their service. In 2016, Wendy was named by Philanthropy Media as one of America's top 25 philanthropy speakers. She appeared on this list as number 2, behind U2's Bono, who holds the number 1 spot. And so I would say to that, Bono is in really good company. And now I will let you hear from Wendy Steele.
Oh my gosh, Anne, thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction. It is so hard to follow Carrie Morgridge. First of all, I adore her and I'm hanging on every word, but as she speaks, my brain starts going in all these directions, and whatever I thought I was going to say sort of goes out the window. So I apologize in advance, and you all will have plenty of time to ask Carrie and ask me questions after these brief remarks, but I am just delighted to be with you. Growing an Impact 100 in Washington, D.C. is just ideal. Carrie hit on all the reasons why, and I just want to echo her sentiments. I am so happy to be with you and so happy to see all of your beautiful faces. jumping into this movement. We are coming alongside your leadership team this evening to ask, that critical question. Here we are, it's 2020, a year we will remember for a million reasons. And what is going to happen with Impact 100 DC? We have a lot to celebrate, and I know that all of you on the call and those who couldn't join us are going to be a part of something really magical right there in our nation's capital. You are invited to write how the story goes, the next chapter. We call our individual locations chapters because, to me, I see it as its own standalone group that has a story to tell. But when it's joined with all those other chapters, the story really gets big and really gets interesting. What we find is that the chapters all help each other, they learn from each other, and they feed from each other. So, here we are in 2020. It honestly feels like the longest year ever, but in many ways, it rings slightly familiar for me. I wish I could tell you that back in 2001, it was the summer of 2001, when I created the Impact 100 model, that I had imagined one day Ann Vaughn would be inspired to introduce Impact 100 to your lovely community. But honestly, I didn't have a clue. Back then, I was a transplant in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'd moved there from the East Coast, where I'd lived for many years. And I was troubled by the number of women I met there who were being left behind. These were bright, capable women who faced barriers they couldn't overcome, preventing them from taking part in community service or philanthropy. I watched helplessly as they wrung their hands and worried about the problems facing their community. And I knew they needed to see what it felt like to be a part of the solution. They had all kinds of reasons why they couldn't get involved. They traveled for their work. They were a stay-at-home mom and couldn't justify paying a babysitter $10 an hour to go out and volunteer in the community. They really just didn't think they had enough. They didn't think they had enough time. They didn't think they had enough money. They didn't think it would make a difference. I had seen and experienced myself the transformation from worry to hope, from crisis to resolution. And I understood then, as I do now, that the problems facing humanity are far too urgent and too complex to be solved by only a few. So Impact 100 is designed to accelerate solutions by empowering women to join together in local communities around the globe, identifying and funding the solutions we need most. As Anne described, this is a simple but powerful concept. Gather at least 100 women together who each donate $1,000. Pool all of that money and give it right back to the local community in transformational grants of at least $100,000 that offers funding for big dreams and bold solutions that bring sustainable impact across 5 broad focus areas: education, environment, health and wellness, arts and culture, and family. Back then, I saw the women in Cincinnati as unique, and I honestly thought I was designing this new concept, this pass-through foundation, as a solution for a very specific community. But now I know better. I've now worked with women in more than 60 communities who face those same barriers and are looking to the Impact 100 model to fund their local communities' most powerful solutions. It's humbling, and honestly, it's kind of amazing when we consider that together, and by the way, this is the first time I've said this number publicly, by the end of this year, by the end of 2020, Impact 100s will have given away more than $90 million to solve our most pressing problems. So if we go back to our founding for a minute, I was on vacation during the summer of 2001 when I designed what we now know as Impact 100. And while I was away, I reached out to several women asking them to help me build this thing. These were women who had skills I didn't have. They knew people I didn't know. This was a diverse, high capacity, very capable group of women. As I was reaching out, explaining this crazy concept, they were nodding and saying, yes, count me in. So when I returned home that summer, I got the kids back in school, I was ready to go. Or so I thought. That was when 9/11 happened. It was unprecedented. The world as we knew it had completely changed. And we all needed to regain our footing. We needed to grieve. These were uncharted waters, and we were desperate for a map. In late October, in fact, on October 25th, and I think here we are at the 27th. So in late October, I called together the 15 women that I had identified as potential founding board and asked some questions. You know, is the time now? Does this crazy idea work? Is Cincinnati the place? Are we the people who want to move forward in light of everything that's happened? Those questions quickly turned to, if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Does this sound a little familiar? In 2020, with the pandemic and racial tensions and inequities in the spotlight, I am sure these are the same questions you've asked yourselves. You've wondered, will we be able to build this thing in this climate? 2020 must be an awfully tough year to launch a new initiative. But what I'm seeing in your faces this evening, what I'm seeing in the more than 50 women who have said, yes, count me in, is you're answering with the knowledge that you can be a part of the solution, and that now more than ever, you need to be a part of this solution. You are ready to fuel the transformational solutions right in our nation's capital. Impact 100 is built on the premise that we are stronger and smarter together. By bringing together an eclectic group of diverse women to review, examine, and discuss grant applications, the best solutions will emerge. By inviting all women to see themselves as philanthropists, we would be mobilizing a new face and force for good. The world needs your hearts, your minds, and your checkbooks, now more than ever. This has certainly been a year of great challenge for so many of our neighbors and friends. And just like in 2001, we see so much need all around us. But we also see the bright lights. We see people committed to helping others in spite of, or perhaps because of, our current circumstances. We see you, bold, generous women, standing in the gap and giving a voice to those without one and a hand up to those in need. I believe your generous hearts will do all you can to make a profound impact in DC. I believe you'll dig deep and commit to funding your Impact 100 membership and help spread the word. I believe you'll tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, and colleagues about this powerful movement and invite them to join you. And when you do, we'll be celebrating, we'll be helping, we'll be lifting, and we'll be cheering. I hope you'll reach out to some local men and businesses too, inviting them to provide the funding that may allow a woman who cannot afford her own membership this year to take part in the transformational work you're going to do. We live in a connected world where we rise and fall together. So let's always choose to rise and lift others as we go. That's the purpose of Impact 100, and I believe it's how we're called to live. I and all of us at Impact 100 Global will be right here to help. Count on me to always be cheering your impact. Count on Carrie to consistently be inspiring all of us in the good she brings to the table. Count on your leadership team to continue doing what they have been doing, telling the story of Impact 100, inviting women to join. We really are all in this together, and I am so excited to watch your success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Now I feel that both of you should have talked longer. I didn't want either of you to stop. I see one. Oh no, here are a couple of questions. Stacy, do you see them too?
I do. Would you like me to read them?
Sure.
Sure.
So our first question comes from Herta Feely. She says, there are numerous giving circles in the DC area. Why specifically Impact 100 and not another? But also, shouldn't we coordinate our efforts with other women's groups?
Well, I can answer that. At least I'll give it a stab at it if that's okay. You know, I think that there are a number of other opportunities always. Part of what makes Impact 100 so unique is the transformational nature of our grants and the process we go through. There is a lot of thought, a lot of effort, a lot of attention, and a lot of due diligence. We take our responsibility to steward our members' money very seriously. And so part of what we have built is really a new way of looking at these grants and making sure that we're not only giving to the best solutions, but we're giving to the organizations that can pull off what they're trying to do. What we find in community after community is that when an Impact 100 organization comes to town, we are not looking at the pie of philanthropic giving in that community and wondering how we can re-slice the pie so that Impact 100 gets a piece, which means by default, all the other pieces of the pie get smaller. That's not what happens. What happens when an Impact 100 community starts in a city is the pie of philanthropic giving gets bigger. Because what we find is approximately 50% of the women who join an Impact 100 organization have never written a check to a single charity for $1,000 or more prior to joining Impact 100. It doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have the capacity, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't write several small checks that may have even equaled $1,000. But for half, roughly, of our women, this is the first time they've written a check for $1,000 to a single charity. The other half are what I call seasoned philanthropists. Now, I wish we had lots of Carrie Morgridges. We don't. There is a one and only Carrie Morgridge. But the seasoned philanthropists are women like Carrie who have a lot of familiarity writing a check, and she looks at Impact 100 as a good addition to her giving portfolio. And so in both cases, we're bringing extra money into the community that otherwise wasn't deployed. You all haven't gotten to this point yet, but what's going to happen over the course of the calendar year is, you know, you're going to announce how many members you have, and you're going to invite all these nonprofits to apply. And then your members will be given an option to design their own experience. And if they choose to sit on a grant review committee, imagine at one end of the table is someone like Carrie. She has a view of the mountaintop. She understands what's happening in the field. She knows what other funders are doing. She knows what other nonprofits are doing that is really creating the best kind of results. And Sherry has a voice at the table. Now imagine at the other end of the table. When I started Impact 100, when I dreamt up this idea, I had never myself written a check for $1,000 to a single charity. So at the other end of the spectrum, you have a newly minted philanthropist. And although I may not know what I do know is I know who the local partners are that need to be included, which bus line it has to be on. I know what has to happen at the local level for it to be successful. And then you imagine every shade of the rainbow in between. And now imagine the robust dialogue that takes place and the give and take as each of our voices are blended together. And you said that so beautifully as you described the chorus. Better decisions are made because of the diversity that is around the table. Diversity by every definition that makes us unique. And so when we look at coming into a community, we add so much. We bring women in who otherwise aren't involved. We are often one of the largest grant makers with $100,000. And we are women funding community, not necessarily women funding women and girls. So that may have been a longer answer than you wanted, but how's that?
This question is somewhat related. It says, hi, Wendy and Carrie. I'm a native of, this is from Rana Freiberg, a native of Cincinnati. So I was especially pleased to learn several months ago that Impact 100 originated in my hometown. Though the District of Columbia's population is twice that of Cincinnati, the two cities share similar demographics and similar issues with respect to inclusion and diversity. Both cities have a history of racial strife as well. Given the commitment of our organization is made to fully reflect the diversity of our community in both our membership and our grantees. I'm wondering if you have any practical suggestions as to how we can reach out across our city to further develop ties to women of different backgrounds, colors, ages, and experiences whom we may not know personally.
Gosh, that's a great question. I hate to always be jumping into answer. Carrie, were you ready to answer that question or do you want me to take it?
You know, that it's really hard because a lot of my girlfriends look like me, right? So right now that's a strike against me because I want everybody to have a seat at the table, but a lot of my girlfriends just happen to look like me. And so how do we break into welcoming every woman? And I'll tell you, the two chapters that I've seen them do the best is Port St. Lucie. We have this go-getter CEO who she keeps her Impact 100 flyers in, and they've made like a small little one, like the size flyer about how every woman could make a difference. And when she is on the street, she is going up to women who think she might be amazing and she's inviting them. When she's at church, she's bringing this sheet and inviting them. When she's at farmer's market, she's inviting them. And I think women just have to be asked. And I always thought it had to be a friend, but it's more about carrying this little sheet of paper and saying, come with me, come be my friend. Because asking a woman to Impact 100 is like asking a woman to be your friend. It's not about asking them for money. It's about saying, I'm going on this women's empowerment journey, and do you want to come along with me? Then in Pensacola, they have fun with a capital FU. And it's so exciting to be a part of that organization. They are inviting me to rodeo night. They have wine night. They have champagne night. They have fire toss. I mean, these women in Pensacola really got it going on the fun. And that's why I think in Washington, D.C., it's so uptight every time I'm there. It's so serious. It is time for Impact 100 to kind of mix it up and say, we are not this uptight, stuck-up group. We are here to empower women. We want you to know we're screaming from the rooftop. Every woman's invited. So I would definitely talk to some of our two most successful, two most diverse groups of how they're doing it. And it honestly, it is just little flyers like this saying, come to the table with me, come join me. And it's so, so much fun once you kind of get into the spirit, since it's Halloween, the spirit of giving and the spirit of collaboration.
And you are such a tough act to follow. You are so right, Carrie. You know, and the only thing I would add to that is it's about doing exactly what you're doing, and which is being intentional about it and saying, you know, we are going to go do this. Sometimes chapters make the mistake and they think, well, I'm just going to build it with the people that are quick and easy to pull in, and we'll build diversity later. Later doesn't happen. And unless we have diverse representation on our leadership team, it's very hard for members to feel as if they are welcome. If everybody lives on one side of town, if everybody is a white collar worker, or if everybody is white and in their 50s, we have to be intentional about diversity by every definition, so that if I am a blue collar worker from a neighborhood that you all don't live in, I will be able to look at the group and feel that I can be a part of it. I also think, and Carrie brings up a great point with Debbie Butler out of Impact 100 St. Lucie. Part of what Debbie did is she understood the demographics of her community. And then she not only intentionally, because she does have friends from every walk of life, every race, every ethnicity, but when she invited them to the leadership team, she said, and I want you to have a voice. I want you to go and bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring your sorority sisters, bring your business colleagues. And she really made both diversity and membership recruitment everyone's job. And when it's everyone's job, you get the results that you're looking for.
I think that's a great lead into another question, which is from member Mary Miller, who I know is from Virginia. I'm from DC, Anne's from Maryland, and that's sort of the nature of her question. She said these three places have very different cultures. And is there another market that we could learn from as we reach out to people about being the change for our entire community?
First, I want to say hi to my dear friend Mary Miller, because I love her and she's amazing, and she joined your group right away. Mary, I think you bring up such a good point, and I'm going to flip it upside down, is that Impact 100 is about bringing those three cultures together. That's part of what is the problem and the breakdown of diminishing society, is that we have, you know, a certain group in Virginia, and we have a certain group that lives, you know, at the Hill, and then we have another certain group that lives in Georgetown. I think Impact 100, and that's why I think you have the opportunity to be the largest impact. Imagine if you could take all three different cultures and mesh them into one. And again, I didn't talk about this enough, but my very first question when I joined Impact 100 was, how the heck did you do it? How did you get 100 women? How did you get 500 women to agree on those grants and in that sector? I didn't understand what Wendy was talking about, which is the model and the process in which everybody is about to go through. And it rocked my world on the process, so much so that Morgridge Family Foundation changed a lot of the way that we do business. Looks more like Impact 100 now, because we saw what she went through. Because I kept investing in sectors. We always would say, well, we only invest in education. Have you ever heard a philanthropist say that? I only invest in the arts. I only invest in health. Well, guess what? Then you're going to give the same dollar to the same people, and you're going to do it over and over for the rest of your life. And if that's the kind of philanthropist you want to be, then amen, bless and release. Because that is not the philanthropist I want to be. I want to make a mark on my world. I want to make a mark on our world, and I want to do it with you. So I think, again, back to Mary's question about how do we get these three different organizations to get together? It's the Impact 100 model, because it showed me, it taught me, how do we get out of this sector mentality and really into how do we do what's best for our community, and how do we bring as many women as we can possibly to have a seat at the table, and what would that look like? So it's a challenge now, right? I am now challenging Washington, D.C. group to grow bigger than Pensacola.
Here's thank you, Carrie.
No pressure, Ann. No pressure at all.
No
Don't
pressure,
worry.
Ann.
1,000.
Ann,
Okay.
give yourselves a 3-year runway. How about that? What about if we start with 300 women and we grow to 600 and then we grow to 1,200?
Just have to keep striving. And here's a question from Herta Feely, who had asked the earlier question about other women's giving circles. And she says that who are other women's giving circles that are just as committed as we are and who give to wonderful organizations. My question stands, especially about coordinating efforts. I don't mean to be difficult, but as I tried to recruit friends, I found they were already participating elsewhere, which I think is why our group should initiate efforts to coordinate with other groups. Could be a beginning of a dialogue, offline, whatever you like. I know the hardships of nonprofits. Anyway, I'm gonna take a stab at that first, and then I'd love for both of you too, but I couldn't agree more that, you know, there is such ample room for collaboration among women's giving circles. So I wholeheartedly agree that that's a terrific way to go. And I think I have no doubt that those opportunities are going to come along, and they already have and do. That said, each individual giving organization is different. You know, it's like that ensemble metaphor. Each giving organization it takes its character from the women who are involved in doing the work. So I know that there are many terrific giving circles in this area. I also, and we thought long and hard before we started, when we realized that we were not, you know, not alone there. But as Wendy said, it was clear that we were just going to make the pie bigger and not divide it up into smaller pieces. And I know that a lot of giving circles in this area are totally overwhelmed with applications, which again, but yes, collaboration, conversation, identifying ways to work together. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think you've got the answer. I can give you a real life example. I believe initiating a dialogue, getting to know each other, you know, this is not hand-to-hand combat. I feel like the people and the women in your community will have an opportunity to join multiple different experiences. And the best example I can give, and they all are Impact 100 organizations, is in Metro Detroit. In Metro Detroit, we have Impact 100 Metro Detroit, and they serve Wayne County, which is Detroit proper, Oakland County, and Macomb County. And Oakland or Macomb are sort of bedroom communities, if you will. And they started at about the same time Impact 100 Oakland County started. And Impact 100 Oakland County only concentrates on Oakland County, a bedroom community. And the founders of Oakland County felt that all the philanthropic dollars were going into the heart of Detroit, and that in fact, their community in particular needed some grant funding. And before long, then Impact 100 Macomb County was started, when women who lived and worked and played in Macomb said, well, gosh, we also think that too much goes here and too much goes there, and so we're doing our own. And in the beginning, I think these three groups, because bear in mind, they're all operating on the same model. It's not even different models. Their geography is different. And what's happened is, from the very beginning, is there's been open dialogue does it make sense for us to somehow come together? And the answer was a pretty quick no. There were enough differences, and the leaders were very strong about staying the course and making a difference in the way that they had originally intended. But what's really interesting is that I spoke, in fact, it was the last time I traveled before the COVID lockdown for International Women's Day, and I was the host, or I was hosted by, I guess I should say, Impact 100 Oakland. Oakland County was doing this big event, but they invited Impact 100 Macomb and Impact 100 Metro Detroit. And so all the chapters came together. One chapter organized this, one chapter was there, paying for it and really doing the heavy lifting. All the chapters benefited. Why? Because the idea isn't to elbow anybody out of the way. The idea is to link arms and to make an opportunity available to women who otherwise wouldn't have. Now, that event was a huge success. Part of the reason it was a huge success is that everyone came together to make it so. And I believe you all will find your sweet spot, whatever that is, and you will make it work. I think you'll have a number of women who join your group and may join some others. And I think women may get very excited about what you're doing. And if someone says to you, well, I'm already involved over here doing this other thing, that's fine too. The idea is to bring as many people to the table as we possibly can to make the biggest difference and to make your community better and stronger and more resilient.
I have another question. This one's directed specifically to Carrie. Again, from Mary Miller. Can you talk about why women and what magic can happen when women come together?
Why women? Why not? I think, Mary, I feel so lucky because I was raised in a house where women were considered equals. Even though my mother didn't go to college until she was 56, and I followed in her footsteps. I didn't go to college till I was 36. But we were always, we were considered equals. And then when I married my husband, John P. Morgridge had always treated Tasha Morgridge as an equal since the day they got married in 1955. And that wasn't something we were talking about in 1955, was women's empowerment. I mean, they weren't even close to getting paid. I mean, look at how far we've come, but we still have a ways to go. So that being said, my eyes were really opened when, as Wendy said earlier, women hadn't written a check for more than $1,000. That was such a good point for her to make because it was true. So women, we don't see ourselves as philanthropists, and we give differently. I'm just writing my third book right now called Courage Money. And we're doing a little research on the difference between how women give and how men give. And men give easily to their alma mater. They give to their football team, they give to their baseball team, their soccer team, whatever team it is. And then they call up 10 friends and like, Jude, come on, get involved. Okay, I'll write a check because you're writing the check. And that's how it goes. Women are so different. One, we want to give with our heart, right? Our heartstring is on there. And that's why Wendy's process is so important, because we want to feel that we're part of the movement. And so why now? We've never been in a better position to empower other women to join us on this journey to have a seat at the table. And if there are other, giving circles out there that require less money, I'm actually part of a few of them where the entry is $100. Amen. They still have the same empowerment. The difference is they're not doing the same thing that Impact 100 is doing in that transformational gift of systems. So what is so important that everybody just must know is that if we give program dollars, I'm really involved with Catholic Charities of Fort Worth. If I give Catholic Charities of Fort Worth the same dollar to the same people over and over again, every year they're going to ask me for that again. They did a project with our help called the Padua Pilot. And out of their research, we found out that people could get off government assistance completely if we stopped giving them that same dollar and invested in them by helping them sustain their housing, helping them with transportation, and helping them with 3 months of savings. And when a family has 3 months of savings, they 100% go off of government assistance and they never ask for that dollar again. So we could do it the old way, the way Catholic Charities was doing, or we could do it the new way. And Wendy's model, Impact 100 model, is about giving in a new way. A, all women are invited to the table. And 2, transformation. And those are 2 powerful elements combined makes a huge difference. And hi, Gloria. You look amazing.
Hey, Gloria.
I'm sorry I was so late.
That's okay. We're glad to see you.
So, well, we are getting close to the end, but here's a question that I think is a perfect final question, and it gets to Carrie's point about fun. Obviously, we are handicapped by not being able to do in-person events right now. Yeah, it's just killing us. You know, we just love to be able to be in a small group and talk to people. And anyway, any creative ideas to increase enthusiasm and participation?
Oh my gosh, we did a chapter chat recently, and Impact 100 Palm Beach County, and we have a Northern Palm Beach County, this is Southern Palm Beach County, is celebrating 10 years. And they decided that they really wanted to go big, and they've got a lofty membership goal. And so what they did, first of all, they created a large membership committee. And then they've done all sorts of really fun things. They've delivered balloons to people's doors. They've put up signs saying, you do a virtual potluck, or you just want to think about what's fun, and channel your little girl, channel what would keep your kids occupied, because in this time that we're in, so many, so sorry, that would be my 8-pound squirrel dog. And oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I am so glad I don't have the only dog barking. Was that Gracie I heard earlier going, she wanted a seat at the table too. That is funny. Well, everybody else, we didn't get to hear your dogs bark. I think my dad just showed up with his dog. So I've got 2 dogs running around in the house, which is welcome to COVID, right? It's not a real COVID conversation if we can't have a few dogs barking and maybe a couple of cats going through the computer screen.
That's a true statement. Well, I think we've reached the end of our time. I can't thank you enough, all of you, for being here tonight. And I cannot thank Wendy Steele and Carrie Morgridge enough for spending this hour with us. And I'm glad that we've recorded this, because I want to go back and scribble any number of quotes from both of you. But our tremendous thanks to you for giving us this time. And I hope to see all of you soon. We
Thank
have
you
another
so
Zoom call
much.
coming up in early December, I guess it is. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks for your great leadership. You have a great team, and we just cannot wait to support you in all the ways that you need support.
Well, thank you so much.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.